You are listening to Radio Ramadan 365 podcasts.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So we'll start off with chapter 4 today. Your life is a product of your opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you say the way we experience the world is singly our own accountability. This seems to contradict the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control, not us.
Well, it depends on how one understands the issue of control. He is absolutely in control over the orchestration of events that presents itself to us in our experience of the world. He tells us that he's Khairul Makirin. So he's the one, he's the planner and the plotter that produces outcomes and produces the world that you experience. What is absolutely up to you is how you look at that world. Your own choice is your choice is whether you're going to see the world as a blessing or as a curse. You can see the world as having within it a sense of design, which translates into you experiencing yourself as being having a generous Rabb, a generous Lord, who is also both your benefactor and your ally. Or you can look at the world and interpret what you're seeing as this is either just wild accidents, or in fact it's malevolently disposed to me. That is a choice. Now, what we don't realize is that he has scripted the world. So all outcomes, he has scripted what's in the window of your perception, whatever you perceive, in such a way that your conviction of what is there produces what is there. Isn't that your own experience? I mean, haven't you ever had that you had that your presumption about a person actually created the conditions where the thing that you presumed actually happened? I mean, there's a story with regard to this. We call it the Jack story. It's kind of it's a very South African story, so I hope it makes sense. But this man is driving through the Karoo, which is a semi-desert area in the center of the country. He's going from Johannesburg to Cape Town. And he's chosen deliberately sort of like a bit of an out-of-the-way route because he wanted to see a bit of the country. And he gets a puncture in the middle of nowhere in the Karoo. And so he gets out the car, opens the boot to fix the car. He sees there's no jack. And he waits a bit, looking down the road, up the road, there's no cars for, and he realizes, listen, I'm gonna be found dead here. I better start walking to find somebody who can help me with this jack, you see. So he walks and he walks and he walks, and sort of the day goes on, and it gets later and later in the day, and then he starts having this waswas, this whispering in his head. Man, if I lived in one of these farms in the middle of nowhere here and somebody just walked up all sweaty and bedraggled and asking for a jack, I would shoot the guy. I'd think he's trying to rob me or something. Who's this? And also it's getting later. So he's telling himself the story over and over again. It's getting later and later and later. The sun starts going, he still hasn't found the house. Finally, at some point, he sees there's a light in the distance. Now, obviously, this story is now getting louder and louder in his head, Look how late it is. I'm going to arrive on the guy's porch. I'm going to knock on his door, and he's going to point a shotgun at me. He's going to and who's going to want to lend me a jack in the middle of the middle of the night like this. Anyhow, so he gets himself so worked up with his story, he finally gets to the porch of this house well after dark. He knocks on the door. The farmer opens the door. He says to the farmer, "Stick your jack, man." He got himself so convinced that the farmer will, that he do you understand?
Yeah.
If you think people are going to be mean to you, then you walk into that situation armed. The people who are armed don't behave nice. They behave mean. So what do you think the responses you're going to solicit from the world? So basically, you're looking into a mirror, and the world that presents itself to you is the face you're showing that mirror, and the face that you're showing that mirror is basically being driven by the assumption that you have about your life that sits behind that. My life is mean. They're all out to get me. So in every interaction, you treat somebody like they're out to get you. You have no trust. You kind of treat people like they're trying, and then obviously people respond in a hostile way to that. You'll then find all the evidence to vindicate your view that they're really, really untrustworthy. And so your opinion of the world is Allah's face, eh? Becomes your experience of the world. If you assume that the world is kind to you, the world shows you a kind face. If you assume that the world is your enemy, it behaves as your enemy. I am my slave's opinion of me, because the world that you see is his face. What does the face do? It talks, it gives messages. If you say this thing that I'm looking at, there isn't a benign Lord behind it, and it's not there in my interest, and it's not my benefactor and my protector, then you're going to go into its steel, ready for the fight, and then you'll solicit an appropriate reaction.
So is it fair to say that where we go into the world with that kindness, and others then show us that anger, resentment, we have to then kind of be mindful of what's going on behind their window of perception?
Yeah, but one doesn't have to go. Yeah, one be careful that you don't want to turn yourself into like the manager of their affair.
Yeah, right. But we just aware of.
So I leave his motives with him. I see him as an element in a bigger canvas, and the bigger canvas has one painter, and the painter is my Rob. And he's brought on behaving a little bit irrationally right now. I can learn something. This person is a benefit to me. Everything that my Rob brings to me is a benefit to me. I make that assumption. Even the people who are misbehaving. One of the most profound things that I learned from people who are misbehaving is just how much I make myself and my experience of life dependent on somebody else's reaction to me. That's why Allah brings us impossible people, so we can learn to trust Him. So think about the world that you experience is a huge canvas. On it there are people, but people are small. It's one canvas. That entire canvas is painted by your Rabb. Moment by moment, like a spectacular sunset, that changes every time you look, it's slightly different. Moment by moment, it's different. But there's one genius of an artist behind this, and this artist is talking only to you, just to you. Sometimes he takes one of these figures and he makes them like somewhat unpleasant. And what happens is that we get so hooked by our own need to be vindicated and loved by others, that we take that one small, you see, there's a big canvas. We take that one small element and we go right up against it. We say, this is my reality. Forgetting the whole canvas. And then we suffer this. And then we start thinking of we start responding to this but it stops affecting all our interactions with anybody else in the canvas. So we then eventually stop painting a canvas, which is really not very pleasant. Because interaction by interaction, we're populating it more and more by people who are hostile to us. You know, reflect, stand back from the canvas, put people in their perspective. They are small. They're ants on this thing. Don't make them that significant. Look at the whole story of your life, not just the one or two individuals that have affected you. And you will only find blessing.
Alhamdulillah.
And when you find blessing, not only is it easier to tolerate the one or two people who are miserable, they actually become entertaining. I mean, what's the use of having a story where everything is all love and roses? I mean, you want a story with a little bit of challenge. You know, I'm just like he's the you know, it's like a good movie, some nefarious plot somewhere. Otherwise, it's not a good movie. Not entertaining. But we can't be entertained by it because we take it too seriously.
We need some villains and heroes in it.
We need some villains and heroes, yeah. They're there for our edification, to entertain us.
It kind of reminds me of a saying, it's Allah is 99% good, 1% bad, for the greater good.
There you go. That's right. That's right.
Because majority is good, but even the bad that you see is for the greater good.
Yeah. And the greater good is that you can be worshipful. The greater good is that you can see just how stupendous he is. Just moment by moment, what an extraordinary kind of artist we're looking at here. What an amazing creative genius we're looking at here. You know,
especially with 8 billion of us on the planet, and each one of us is having a unique experience.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then that's not including the plants and animals and and what we
and
can.
that is the one world that we know.
Right. That's the world that we, through the window of perception.
That's right.
That we're seeing.
Yeah. He describes himself as a Rabbil Alameen. That is not just that which we know.
Right. It reminds me of another one where the equivalence is, if a bird takes a drop of water from the ocean, the drop of water the bird has taken is our knowledge. And the ocean is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge.
Yeah.
So we're focused on the one drop. That's all of our knowledge, everything we ever know, and what we've experienced. But really and truly, we have the vastness is there. Subhanallah. There's another question here. Make it your habit to find the blessing. Is this another way to say think positive?
You know, there's a couple of implications to this thing. You can say the same as thinking positive, you know, but how it is phrased is I smell a little bit of skepticism there. A little bit of like a cynical thing. I mean, is this like pop psychology? You know, is this the same as pop psychology? And one of the things one must be very careful of in this journey of discovering who we are is our habit of trivializing. So he has made us to worship him, which means he has made us to be the ones who apprehend what is significant, what is amazing, to be amazed with and amazed by. The inverse, the opposite of that sense of awe, of amazement at life, is demeaning, trivializing. So you find this very often with people who congratulate themselves with being scientific. They won't deal with these fairy stories and kind of like, and it's basically there's within it, there's a trivializing of people, of trivializing of belief and believers, and also the possibility that there's a creative genius behind all of this. So the opposite of belief, the opposite of awe, which is not belief, awe is worshipfulness, is trivializing, right? So when we start dealing with this way of being that we're describing here, you're really taking on this current worldview at its roots. And one of the things you take on is this habit of trivializing. So you will see us then like think positive and say, well, this is like, they see that this is the same thing as pop psychology or whatever, and disallow it. And in disallowing it, I have to say, well, yes, it's not, you think it's thinking positive, but actually it's not quite the same thing as thinking positive. Because there's a naivety to thinking positive. And that naivety is that as long as I think everything will be okay, it'll be okay. It's like thinking positive is generally a forward-looking orientation. It is about, I will get what I want from life. It's like the same sort of thinking that sits behind how some people use affirmations, I will be a millionaire. I write that with lipstick on my bathroom mirror. So every time I brush my teeth, I remind myself that I'm going to be a millionaire. That's thinking positive. That's looking forward. Most of thinking positive is about outcomes. It's about looking forward. We're saying, no. What is required of you is not to be good at looking forward and managing outcomes looking forward and believing that looking forward, you're going to be clever enough to make things work. What the positivity that's required of you is looking backward. Which of the blessings of your Lord will you deny? How much of your life has worked beyond your own ingenuity? Do the work of reflection, which is by definition is looking back. Look at the world around you and look at those who went before you who claimed overlordship to themselves. Look at what's left of their cities. Look at what's left of their civilizations. They're gone. Be informed by your condition. And if you're informed by your condition, you'll recognize that your condition is extraordinary and is bigger than your own ability to manage. So that's thinking positive, but it's not thinking positive of the future. It's thinking positive of the past. It's affirming what has happened, not thinking positive about what I want to achieve or whatever. So this framing this, what I'm suggesting here, as thinking positive and then having this sort of link to pop psychology and so on actually demeans what I'm trying to argue for. It trivializes it. This is not as simple as thinking positive. This is doing the real reflective work that you're called on in Quran to do. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
أستغفر الله